Welcome, everybody, to the fifth and final day of Concept3D's second annual Partner Summit. We have an exciting session prepared for this morning or this afternoon, depending on where in the country you're joining us from. Excited to see some folks that I've seen throughout the week. Some new names too in the attendee list. As we wait for folks to join, would love for everybody to drop in the chat who you are, where you're coming from, what university you represent, and I'm also going to pop up a little question here in a second. Everybody here is a partner of ours in some variety or fashion. So would love to hear how you're partnering with us, and I'll share that in a second. Welcome, Jen. You all should see probably like a little poll on your screen about what product you use, and it looks like people are quickly filling it out. Mapping events are tied with tours at the bottom. Let's see who's gonna come out on top. And I see more and more folks are joining. So welcome to everybody that's joining. We are just introducing ourselves. We're sharing which of the Concept3D products you all are using, and I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen as well and hop into the deck for today. First off, thanks to everybody for joining today, for joining throughout the week. It has been a wonderful time at our partner summit, and we are really excited for today's session. Quick thumbs up from my team. Is the deck showing up all great? Perfect. So again, welcome. Today we have our partner Palooza product roadmap and lightning round best practice with Thea Thompson at Gardner Webb. She'll be talking about some of the lightning round best practices. And our very own Jill Bobrick and Courtney Conover, who are going to be talking about product roadmap, recent releases, things that are upcoming. So it's going to be a very fun, packed session today. Quick recap of everything that we've done this week. There's been a lot of great sessions. I know many of you have joined for a couple, potentially even all of the sessions. If this is your fifth day and you've attended all of them, please drop that in the chat and you'll get a special call out from us. But if you weren't able to make it, all of these recordings are on our website. You'll also be receiving some of this via email in the coming days too. So really encourage you to check it out if you haven't already. The interactive map did win the poll also. So I'm sure that Jill is probably happy to hear that one. A bit about our agenda today. We're going to start the call off talking about a bit of our accessibility commitments and recent product updates. We're going to pass the mic to Thea, who's going to talk about how Gardner Webb has built a connected campus experience with Concept3D products. And then we're going to end things with Jill, who's going to talk about product roadmap sneak peeks. And so definitely stay tuned till the end of the call because she's got some exciting updates for everybody. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic over to Courtney.
Thank you, Christian. Hi, everyone. So yeah, we're going to start here today talking a little bit about accessibility. I know we had a whole session on this, so I won't go too deep, but especially since we have so many partners today, you know, this is a really, really big milestone that we want to emphasize and recover with everyone here. So just a big thank you to our development team, our product team. But when it comes to kind of where we've been focused as a company and our products, this is probably number one. We've been talking about it for a while now. So all of our core products are WCAG 2.2 AA compliant. So what does this mean for you? Why have we done this? Why have we invested so much in this? We at Concept3D are very focused on making sure we are creating the inclusive digital experiences for everyone. So as we're rolling out new releases every couple of weeks, as we're building new products, this is always a number one focus of ours. We've done this with our partners to focus around reducing that Title II risk, improving the usability across devices, and just making sure you're confident in our long-term support here. So If you need any materials on this, BPAT, TechPat, security documents, whatever it might be, we've got everything built ready for you. If you have any questions around this, please ask us. Again, I'll stay kind of high level on this one, but really excited to share this again. This is a really large focus of ours as a company. So from our product and our dev team, we're excited to announce this for you all this year. All right, so I know it sounds like we have the most maps here, so we're starting with our interactive map updates today. And we do have release notes and documentation and tons of information around these. So these are going to be covering kind of our core releases that we've had over the past few months, and some really big items in here that can be pretty impactful. So if you need any additional information, we'll make sure to get that to you. But starting at the top here, so some exciting updates with the map. We did roll out some refreshed manage updates packages for 2026. So this is built purely based off of our partners' feedback, right? We understand the market. So we've designed this to make it easier to keep that rendering up to date long term. So we've changed these packages to kind of fit the budgetary cycles and restraints that we're seeing amongst a lot of our partners. So if you haven't looked at this and you've got an upcoming renewal, maybe some map updates to make, this is a fantastic option that we've worked really hard to design with our partners in mind to make it easier to maintain those maps long term. From a functionality standpoint, some really exciting upgrades. Both the next ones that I'm hitting on were directly impacted by our client feedback and needs here. So the first one is going to be focused around restricted content. And this can come in two forms. So you can restrict specific categories and locations as well as interiors. So we know safety on campus is really big amongst our map partners. And so we've created this ability in order to require a login to access specific information. So if you want to showcase your interiors maybe just to the student body, or you want to be able to access content just for faculty and staff, we now have the ability for you to manage that content and require logins for specific levels of information. So really great addition there. You still have everything living on that public facing map. It's just when certain users hit specific content, it's going to require that login to access that next level. Following that, we've got an addition of being able to save a specific place or saving a specific parking spot. So definitely, large campuses, maybe athletic focus use case here. Someone comes in for that athletic event, parks, has no idea where they parked, need to save that spot. So we now have some customization in there amongst kind of a profile that we're building within the map itself. So being able to remember where you parked, maybe the level, the floor, and making sure that it's really something that the users can utilize, not only for accessing all the information you're providing, but being able to contribute that a bit and knowing what they need to return back to. Some other just usability updates that you'll notice within the CMS side of things. So we're doing a lot of work on being able to export dynamic labels. In addition, is a new way to display locations utilizing the text versus just those polygons or marker icons. And we've also been working hard on some improvements with editing, more to come on that side, and then with the publish tab as well. Last one on here that you'll see, and you'll see this kind of throughout, is some focus on AI content generation. So trying to mix this in to really help with managing the content, as well as if you're getting, new categories and big pieces of content up and running, utilizing that AI to help get things built for you there. All right, moving over to the tour. So a couple big points here. So multi-language support. This is now full across the platform itself. So we've tied into it the hotspots as well as the audio features. So you have the ability to translate all of your hotspot types now, so that the multi-language is going to fit across the tour itself entirely. You can also export translations for external workflows. So really some improvements here to make sure that it's a seamless experience for those different languages that might be utilizing that tour. Again, that AI theme that you'll see through each of these products. A couple areas we've incorporated it within the tour, focusing on translation. So right? Oftentimes you might have some updates to make, or you might be adding this entirely. We've built some AI translations to help assist with that. And then also with the writing assistant. So this is, again, fully customizable. So you can still manage the tone. You can choose not to use it at all. You can edit it. But just trying to help get off the ground a bit on generating descriptions, updating descriptions. So especially as you might be doing a yearly refresh, this is a great assistant to help eliminate some of the workload there. All right. So moving over into our events, I know this is our second big one that we've got here today. Again, hitting on that AI. So we incorporated it here similarly within the event description. So same type of customizations on tone, length, event context. So helpful to utilize for those event description build outs, making things hopefully a little bit easier and faster on that content creation for those events. The next two were specifically based off of a lot of customer feedback we've gotten in these two areas. So the first one is around register reporting, some improvements that you'll see here, just some actionable insights when it comes to financial, attendee, and response level reporting and information. So hopefully getting a lot more out of that reporting feature. The next one is going to be focused around ticket and revenue management. So we've made some adjustments on tax defaults for some of the tickets. And then the other piece is going to be around on sale timing. So you've always been able to control kind of those exact start and end time or end dates, but we've now adjusted this down to specific times to the minute. So a little bit more customization and control around that on sale ticket timing. And then the last one on here, this is just a continuation. What we've been focused on a lot with the Localist product as well is trying to make things a little bit easier to manage from the branding standpoint, remove things out of the code, make it a bit more out of the box for our everyday users. So here's just a couple areas that we've made some improvements in. One thing I'll call out is that extended header option. So this is really built to help you improve that branding experience. Makes it strictly out of the box, nice WYSIWYG editor there on adjusting colors and different buttons you want to create. Again, just pulling us out of the code a bit and making it a little bit easier for our users. And last but not least, our room reservations products. So this is the newest one on the block for Concept3D. I will just say a caveat, we are constantly rolling out updates, especially with this product. So I'm sure there's a whole new list I could even generate today from putting these slides together. But this is a lot of customer feedback going into this product, especially in where we're focusing a lot of those updates. So some of the core pieces that we've made some changes to around the user groups and reservation policies. So making sure that we're giving you the ability for your institutional booking rules to apply automatically within that room reservation system. In addition, we built out some capabilities around exporting the ICS feeds. So now you can subscribe to those feeds with that information around the reservation data itself. Next kind of usability piece that we've updated recently is around the service provider approvals, right? So as people are making reservations, you might need to have catering or facilities or security give their approval for those reservations. We've now set up so it can automatically email those people that might be involved with it, no login required, right? Trying to make that process a lot easier for our partners. And then lastly is a big piece of this, right? We want to know the data behind it. We want to know how things are performing. So we've made some updates to the reporting and the built-in analytics dashboard around this. So that way you can see those utilization rates, those peak booking periods, and really make sure you're taking this approach from a data perspective and making smart changes, especially if we're trying to maybe utilize some spaces in off-campus or off-peak hours and see kind of the utilization of those different spaces on campus.
Thank you.
And go ahead and say with that, I will pass it back over to Christian.
Yeah, thank you, Courtney. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Thea. We're really excited to hear about how you built a connected campus experience with our products. And so I'll pass the mic over to you. Jennifer, real quick, we will be answering that question. And if other folks have questions, please continue to drop them in the chat. We do have time set aside for Q&A. Thea.
Probably should unmute first. Thank you, Christian. Yeah, I'm really excited that I'm able to talk with you guys. I've been always been happy with the Concept3D products and how it's really impacted the experience on campus. But a little bit about me first. My name is Thea Thompson. I was originally from the Bahamas. I know a lot of people ask, why did you move from Paradise? And my answer to that is that I was young and crazy. But I did my first year of college in Florida before transferring to Seton Hall in New Jersey, where I completed my master's, as well as my bachelor's. I stayed in New Jersey for about 9 years, working in marketing. Got a little taste of it at that point, with digital marketing space, working on websites and some social media. And so that's where I kind of found my focus in the digital space. Moved to Charlotte, working in grocery retail at Food Lion Corporate, and then stayed there for about 6 years. I had a great time working there. I got to redesign the website, help build the app, start the new Shop and Earn program, recipe portal, even got a little taste of the e-commerce system when we initially launched with Instacart. But I got to a point where I felt like I did a lot of what I could do there, and moved into the manufacturing industry space with Masco. Focused more on digital analytics, quickly realized that I love using the data to make decisions, not being the person that would pull the data. And that's how I kind of ended up in the higher ed space. I've been at Gardner Webb now for about 6 years, a little over 6 years. Started out as the Associate Vice President for Web and Digital, which is how I got connected with the Concept3D team at that point. In July of last year, became interim VP and officially VP come January. I've been more focused on digital strategy and digital communication spaces, but always been interested in the overall marketing strategy and storytelling. And I think the Concept3D products really helped us do that. So enough about me. I'll transition into how we kind of gained this connected campus experience with those three products. But starting out telling you what our space looked like. Like a lot of campuses, we didn't have one problem. We had a lot of small ones. We had multiple event calendars across campus. Our athletics has their own website, so they have their own calendar for athletic events. Our student engagement team has their own calendar for an app for student events. And then we tried to, with our new website design, implemented a plugin because our site is on WordPress. And so if you know WordPress, you know it's filled with plugins. And we were using a calendar plugin on our WordPress site that was supposed to kind of help us connect all of those calendars across campus, but was still very manual. We were trying to add in events that were on our athletics calendar and our student engagement calendar onto the main site. The other issue we were facing was our campus map. Was a PDF illustration. We literally had an artist design it and many years ago, but that also means that it was outdated. There were new buildings on campus that weren't on the PDF map. Only things we were able to easily change were labels for buildings, which was fine for, name updates, but we weren't able to add in any additional buildings, or if something happened on campus, we were creating a whole new PDF version that had overlays for that kind of directional stuff. And then last but not least, our virtual tour experience, which was fine on the exterior, but it was managed by another company at the time, and they owned and managed everything. So we had limited updates, limited stops. There were quite a few issues there. But the biggest thing was that none of them talked to each other. None of them talked to our website. There was no connection, no shared data. Uh, mhm. So talking a little bit more about those individual pain points, we ended up focusing on our events platform as the first part of this transition, really because the plugin that we were using was very unstable. We had gotten to a point where the plugin, again, if you know WordPress, the plugins update regularly. And we had an update occur one day and it literally broke our site. There was something in that plugin that was not reacting well with our theme. And did some digging, obviously didn't initially know that was the issue, did some digging, found out that it was the event plugin update. And so we had to revert back to an older version, and then we were stuck there. There had been many updates within that plugin that we weren't able to actually execute, and because of the fear that it would break the site again. And so we were in this place where we were just waiting for either the plugin to stop working because it was so out of date, or we break our site. And so we knew we needed to do something. And then, of course, there's the main issue of not having a centralized calendar for the campus because everybody had to submit events individually. And so we were duplicating work. Our team was trying to keep our main site calendar updated based on all of the individual calendars that were across campus. And as we started talking about our interactive map, we knew we needed to do our PDF map wasn't interactive yet. We knew we needed to do something because at the core of it, it was outdated, but also it doesn't really make us look like a modern campus, right? It wasn't easy to navigate. One of the issues that we have being in, a small town in North Carolina is that our buildings aren't even accurate on Google Maps. So people were having a hard time finding places on campus. They may get to campus, but they didn't know how to get from one building to the other. So there was no real navigation. And then when we had events and you had to tell people, parking lots were closed off, or park in this place, or use this direction for entrances, there wasn't an easy way to do that. We literally had hundreds of versions of our PDF map on our site to accommodate for all of those different instances. And then, of course, as we're talking about accessibility, the PDF wasn't accessible because it's an illustrated drawing. And so then our virtual tour, really, like I said, the biggest thing, a part of that was no ownership. We were on a once a year update. We were limited to, I think, 13 stops at that point. We did not own the pans that were within our virtual tour. Only thing we could change on our end was supplemental media. The voiceover even was done by their team. And so it was very restrictive, and it still wasn't doing what we wanted it to do. And of course, at this point, we had been with the partner for a while, so the updates became more and more costly. So we knew that wasn't something that we could transition quickly because we were locked into a contract, but we knew that it was something that was on our radar as well.
Yeah, I think these are some really interesting pain points. I've heard a lot of them in conversations with schools, and I kind of want to survey the group a little bit. I have just a quick poll that I'm gonna launch, and it is a short answer, so I'll leave it open for a little bit if to give folks some time to think. But really, just want to know what Thea talked about, what kind of resonates with the audience here. If there's something that's on your mind that she didn't share, feel free to drop that as well. Yeah, so I think this will allow you all to do a short answer. And so I'll give everybody a second to think about this. But yeah, I know that your next slide you'll kind of be talking about some of your non-negotiables. So I'll go ahead and transition there as people kind of think about how to respond to this.
Sure. Yep. So as we sat down and talked about all of these different pain points, we knew that we needed to find a solution. And so we knew that we weren't just looking for tools. Tools wasn't our problem. We had a lot of tools, but we needed to define what it was that we really needed out of those tools. And so our biggest thing was centralization, flexibility, and ownership. And then, of course, one of the most important part of that was having those systems connected. They didn't if they didn't connect, we were just recreating the same problem. And so those were some of the things that we were really focused on when we started looking at a partner that we wanted to connect with. Now, why did we land on Concept3D? What really I think stood out to us, we looked at I think five other vendor partners. It was really required for us to look at three based on that kind of the red tape that we have internally. We do have to review at least three vendor partners, but we you know there aren't a lot of companies that offer all of these tools, and so it did take quite a bit of review to look at a bunch of different opportunities. But why we landed with Concept3D, what really stood out for us was this wasn't three separate solutions. It was an entire ecosystem. We saw an opportunity to connect the campus in ways we hadn't even thought of before. Honestly, even as we were going through the demos, it was just clicking with light bulbs going off like, oh, we can actually do this, we can do that. So even what we started out looking for changed a lot as we talked with the Concept3D team. So it seemed like a no-brainer for us. So what we started out first with, it was our events calendar. And that, like I said, really was because it was an unstable plugin at the time. We needed to make sure that our website, our newly designed website, wasn't going to crash, but also that we could find a way to centralize our events across campus. And what the localist implementation allowed us to do was pull in our athletics calendar and our student engagement calendar. Did we lose our presentation?
Sorry, that
There we
was
go. Yes. The localist integration allowed us to pull in our athletics calendar, our student engagement calendar as a feed into our main events calendar. So we didn't, everybody wants to kind of own their own thing. And so we didn't want to ruin that relationship and say, oh my God, you can't have your own calendar anymore. But this gave us a way of pulling those things in easily without duplicating efforts on our side and giving us a place for prospective students, current students, families, parents and families to come to and see holistically what's happening at Gardner Webb. During the integration, what was interesting, what was the hard part, which wasn't actually doing the implementation or setting up any of the events, it was really the work that we were doing, knowing that we were going to eventually do the interactive map. So it was actually hard to find addresses for all of our buildings on campus. That part of the process was interesting, making sure that we had the right locations so that we could eventually make that connection. We needed to do some of that work up front. And then we did some additional work with loading in a previous year's worth of events so that when we did launch the calendar, it didn't seem empty. But the setup for this went really well, knowing that we also were able to do our own subdomain, and it pulls in our header, our footer, so it just kind of easily connects and looks like a main Gardner Webb calendar. And then the next one was our interactive map. The top image there is an illustrated view of what that map looked like. And that map was around our campus, printed in a lot of different locations. So we knew one of the things that we still needed as an output was an option for a PDF map. So that wasn't the ultimate focus. Our intention was really to find a way to make this more interactive, have people more easily be able to navigate campus. But knowing that we had the option to then create a PDF map version that we can easily print and have sit out front of our, we actually have the digital and print version outside of our Tucker Student Center, for instance. So, but what really made this this transition great is, real-time updates. We have access to the full back end of the CMS, so we're able to edit a location if for some reason something's wrong in there. If we want to update imagery that's associated with that location, we have used it a lot for the events that I talked about. We have, if there's a commencement coming up and we need to highlight the parking locations on campus, we just drop that in as an additional overlay that people can turn on and off. We also, because we had already completed the Localist integration, we have our events pulling into our calendar and they are showing up in the location that it's happening. So if we have student events happening in Tucker Student Center or prospective student events happening in Dover, that's showing them exactly where it is on the map. So it's really, and then the wayfinding, I think was the biggest deal for us, um, not just directions for cars, but also walking. Um, when I first started at Gardner Webb, I recall getting invited to meetings across campus and having to ask someone, which building is that? Because there was no easy way at that point to figure out how to get from one building to the next, or even know. I pulled up this PDF map on my phone many times, zooming in, looking at the legend and trying to go back to the building. And it just wasn't functionally a good way to do that. And so being able to transition to a map that people can actually engage with, and then on top of that, see events and even other locations within the community just made that a plus. We stopped creating the one-off solutions and built something that's more sustainable and easy to update. And last but not least, our most recent implementation was our virtual tour. So we did have to wait until our contract was up with the prior vendor, but we planned it just right so that there was some overlap, so that there wouldn't really be downtime between when we canceled the other contract and launched the new virtual tour. Um, but like I said, the biggest shift for us with this, I think, was the ownership part of it. We worked with the Concept3D team to help us with some of the panorama shots for the stops. But we even invested on our end in a 360 camera so that we could take advantage of having 360 video within our tour, which was a huge shift from our previous vendor. We could now not just show an empty room, but actually show real life on campus. If you went to our athletic tour and saw our indoor baseball facility, you actually see our baseball team in the facility working out and hitting balls. That's a big difference in terms of how you're able to engage with the tour. But we also got the opportunity being able to show our baseball indoor facility, for instance, was a huge difference because our athletic tour previously consisted of one stop. It showed you the football field, and we talked about all the other facilities on campus because we were very limited on the amount of stops that we were able to display. In this instance, we were able to break out our tour into 3 individual tours that can really speak to the audiences as they're looking for it. If we have a prospective athlete, our coaches are able to pull up the athletics tour and show them what facilities look like on campus. If we have a science student wanting to see what a lab looks like, they can go to the academics tour and see what the science lab looks like. And similarly, if you're just looking to see if we have great food at the cafeteria, we have a 360 video tour of that too in general campus. So having those individual tours made a huge difference for us too, transitioning from the 13 stops, because even in the one long tour, you saw a lot of drop off before you got to that point. So we went from having one tour, static pans, to really being able to have a connected storytelling platform for in 3 different tours. And this is where it really all came together. Once we had all three of the tools implemented, you started to see all of those connection points. Our events are tied to our map locations. Our map locations have embedded virtual tours. Our tour stops have, like I said, reflect kind of real campus activity. So it's not just showing empty buildings. It's one system that's just feeding multiple experiences, and it makes a huge difference for how we can communicate to our prospective students and families, and even, even faculty staff that's coming to the campus new. There's so much more ways that they can kind of interact with us and see what's happening. And of course, I can't be marketing and not talk about the brand experience from this. Not only did we create that connection point, and we have that one source of truth for events, but it's a consistent visual experience. I mentioned, with our events calendar, it looks like it's again a Gardner Web page. The same thing with our map, the same thing with our tours, being able to kind of use some of that styling, custom styling that's available. We're able to make sure that all looks like a seamless experience. And even um, with all three of those, we've found ways to integrate them into the website itself. So on our homepage, there is a carousel of upcoming events. And on our housing page, there is an interactive map embedded in the bottom so that people know how to find the particular residence hall that they're looking for. We've found a lot of ways to not just have them be distinct experiences where if you go to that URL, that's where you find it, but also have it connected throughout the content. So we have that now this new one source truth for events. We don't have to create multiple PDF map versions. Everybody goes to the interactive map and they can just check off what they're looking for and do it that way. But overall, it just makes us look better for the people experiencing Gardner Web. Sort of already talked about this, but it's navigation was a huge part of this. If you are a prospective student wanting to learn more about Gardner Web, you may start at the virtual tour. Before you ever get to campus, you have an opportunity to see what campus looks like. And, like I said, I think the 360 tours, the 360 video make a huge difference in comparison to um, the static pans, but also all of the hotspots that we're able to embed with actual video content of some of the events that may happen in that building, or, class experiences really help to tell that story. So it's more engaging that they can experience virtually before getting here. And then when they do decide to come here, it's easy to navigate. We have QR codes even all over campus, on building doors that pull up virtual tours for that particular building location, or there's interactive maps that people can. There's actually TVs with the interactive map on it that people can engage with. So it really just created an easier way for people to engage and experience the campus when they're here or virtually. And this I really just had to show because it was such a fun implementation for us. But it really just shows the flexibility of the platform. This was not something that was necessarily out of the box. I think when we talked about it, they're like, huh, we had never really designed a disc golf course in the interactive map before. But it was something exciting, something we really wanted to do. Our campus has a disc golf course. There are people from the community that come in and use it. The students you will see if you're walking around campus are constantly playing the course, but there was no easy way to know that it existed or how to even navigate the course. And so, we reached out and said, is this something we can do with a custom overlay? It seems like it's something we can do, and kind of worked with the team. And now you don't just see where all of the hole locations are on campus, you can actually navigate between each hole. We'd like to enhance that some and start putting in some visuals of where all the holes are on campus and things like that. But this just shows you there's so much more you can do with the system than just wayfinding and navigating. So some of the good things that kind of came out of this transition, I mean, for us, we love the systems, but I think it also um, gave some freedom to the other folks across campus, so teams can manage their own events. They don't have to rely on us for updates. From our perspective, well, from theirs as well, there's reduced duplication. They don't have to worry about sending an event to the student engagement calendar and sending it to us. If it's on the student engagement calendar, it will automatically be on ours. And so all of that less friction that's been created just really makes for a faster turnaround on updates and changes that we kind of need. And I already said I am not the person that loves talking about data, so I'm going to keep this short. But I'm not going to go through all the numbers here, but the trends are really what matters. Localist obviously has been the platform that we've had the longest, but even just from January to March in comparison to last year, we saw a 271% increase in users. And then even 35,000 views. That's huge for us when we first implemented the system because it wasn't, it was new, right? And people were still figuring out how to use it and all that. There was that little bit of fear that was like, are they even going to use the system? So seeing the percentages, seeing what people are interacting with really gives us hope that they that we're adapting and adopting it really well. And so that's always exciting to see. And then the next one, yep, our interactive map. This one has not been as long around as long as Localist has, but we've had 3,500 views during that same period. What's also interesting, I think, from some of the data we've seen is that they're actually clicking into the CTA buttons. We put a few up there to encourage easy applications and information requests and things like that. And so they are actually clicking. I don't know what the request map update one is, but I don't know what change they could have been asking for, but it's good to see the apply and request info being used there. And even looking at the locations that they're actually clicking through on. In this instance, it's predominantly around our Tucker Student Center. It's around the residence halls, which is not surprising. That tells me a lot about that either being prospective students and families or current students, new students, I should say, kind of navigating campus. And last but not least, the virtual tour. This one is newer, but still seeing 20,000 page views recently really tells us a lot about usage. And we're seeing that across all three tours. So people are actually clicking into the three of them. They're clicking into hotspots. Again, I think this tells us a lot about who's using it because you're seeing, again, dorms, you're seeing some current student type videos that were showing some of the experiences on campus, like students going to the Big E and pancake bingo. So I think it's the audience that we were looking for is exactly who's kind of interacting with this. But what all of the data across the three of these really tell us is they're using it, they're not just landing on them, and that's exactly what we want. So now that we've had all three of those tools implemented, we're looking to build on that. So we're thinking about how do we better integrate it into some of our marketing campaigns, make sure that our admissions and enrollment team are using the tools. How do we include more storytelling content like those videos and hotspots? Can we expand on some of the other content, leverage data, really trying to find more ways to show the value in the platforms? and what we've learned. You're not just chasing tools, you're trying to define a system. Centralization matters. When we launched our new website, we were excited about making sure that kind of eliminating all the hands in the pots and making sure that it was centralized data. And so that's a huge deal. Ownership of the tools matter because it gives you more flexibility to do what you need to do. And having them integrated across and sharing tools, sharing the data across the systems is where the real value is. So thank you. I'm gonna pass back to Christian.
Yeah, that was incredible. Thank you so much. We have a lot of questions in the chat box about your presentation. So excited to make it there. But real quick before we do, Jill, why don't you run us through some of the journey ahead?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Christian. And yeah, thank you. It was just such a privilege to watch you talk about how you're using the products as someone who's been working on them for 10 years to see them add value. It's amazing. So yeah, I'm going to go over each specific product and what we're focusing on in the near term. I will say our strategy in general, we do quarterly roadmaps, and so we don't really lock in past that, so we can be reactive and reflective to the market. So some of this is locked in, and some of this is high hopes. So we'll go through that, but what we are focusing on our roadmaps in general is we know it's a really interesting time for higher ed right now, and what we're hearing from you is we need to help make streamlining updates and keeping your content fresh easier. We need to maintain our state of the art features, and we really need to uphold accessibility. So those are going to be core to what we're doing across the board. So on the map, as I said, with accessibility right now, and we actually just launched, I think yesterday, the first phase of this, we're working to get that print map accessibility up to WCAG compliance. It's an interesting one and complicated. And actually, we got a question in the chat that we'll probably address about the PDFs that it actually outputs. But any web product we present, we want to make sure it's working for all. So making sure that interface is accessible is the first step there. And then we're really going to be diving into some CMS improvements. I can't wait to launch the new bulk update tool for our locations. It's behind the scenes right now. It's going to be really great, and I think everyone's going to get a lot of value out of it. Then we really are going to take an eye to simplifying the CMS a little bit and making it easier for those new users to come in and understand how to do simple things and let the power users focus where they really can shine. Long-term requests, letting people self-upload panos, really excited to get that moving forward for our CMS admins. And then we will be exploring a bit of a deeper AI assistant. I know we saw some questions around that. We'll be sure to make sure we're really transparent about everything we're doing there, and anything we're going to be doing with AI across any of our platforms will be able to be disabled, as we want to be really respectful of what people are feeling, and those who want to lean in, we want to enable, and those who, want to not, we want to make sure that's possible as well. More than ever, our customers have really been leaning into feeds, which is amazing. So we'd love to put the power of that in our customers' hands to no longer need to come through us to feed in content from ArcGIS or, other platforms onto the map. And then along with what Theo was saying, we've launched our fourth product, room reservations, which we're really excited about. It is a beast. I tell the developers and product team that work on that every day how impressed I am with how complex and just this. It's a very cool system. So we want to make sure that that's working seamlessly in our platform as well. So we'll be working on that. 360 tour. There's one small piece of multi-language. It's not quite done yet, and that's all our alternative text and some caption support. So that is in progress right now. You should see that live within a few weeks. The actually building out our captions for that. So when I say captions, I mean media captions. So when you're viewing a hotspot or additional media, you can add additional context about the image in a visual form. And then we've heard you. We know that tours that our data shows that most people don't get past a seventh tour stop ever if they make it that far. So shorter, focused tours are what people need, and to make that easier, we need reusable tour stops. So we hear you. We're working on it. Coming soon. Next Over on Localist, we're really focusing right now on some performance improvements and scalability, making sure that we can really scale with the system and you can really rely on us. And then, as many know, there is that automatic SSL deadline coming up where you're going to have to renew your SSL more frequently. So we want to support everyone there. And then once again, back to that partner ecosystem, multiple date reservations from the room reservation platform and really enabling those across the board in Localist. And room reservations. This, I mean, I just can't speak enough about how quickly we have been able to respond to customer input and feedback here. The product and development team is just doing a phenomenal job in hearing what's important and leaning in. So they're working on some map improvements right now. Is this is really what makes our room reservation tool stand out? Is instead of just a simple form, you actually get a map-based experience. Um, we're working on an external request form so that users don't actually have to be logged into the system to submit a room reservation request. SIS integrations will be starting with Banner, but definitely getting that deep connection so you can get your academic schedule imported or other information. And then the ability, just some, quality of life improvements like duplicating reservations coming down the road. So that and more. So that is the roadmap. I think we got a lot of questions in the chat, Christian. So I'll hand it back to you and you can guide us on where we start.
Yeah, no, we sure do. And I know that as I've been doing this slide deck, Mikey's been taking a peek at some of the questions. So I think I'll let him go ahead and start asking a couple of the questions from the chat. Just real quick though, as we do some of the questions, I'm going to launch our last poll, which is really just asking about like what recent or future releases you're really excited about, and what would you be interested in learning more about. I know there was one in the chat about someone wanting to see more about localist updates. So let us know what you're interested at, and we'll make sure to keep you updated on those. But yeah, Mikey, do you want to go ahead and present a couple of questions to the team?
Yeah, sure. The first question is, let's go with Alex's question. Hold on, let me see if I can find it really quickly. And he had a question about if Gardner Webb was planning on continuing to use PDF options, because Alex was considering moving away from them altogether due to accessibility limitations at a smaller scale. Christian, I don't know if you wanted to use your host capabilities to allow Alex to come off mute and maybe give a little bit more context to the question.
Alex, you should be able to speak.
So much power. Hey everybody. Thanks. We've just talking about this today. We're having a really hard time with the scale of our campus, printing it out, making something that at 8.5 by 11 is even close to accessible. And, we would love to just push everyone to our interactive map, but, our new student orientation and parents and family weekends and some of those groups really believe that there are folks that come to campus that would like to have something in their hands. So just curious what everyone else is doing with that.
Yeah, I mean, from our perspective, we have the same issue, which is why it was important for us to maintain a PDF map. There are still many printouts across campus, and actually, I still sometimes see the illustration, and I just go in and I'm like, no, we're getting rid of that. But what we've done, if you're talking about the part of the concern with the scale, what we've done in some instances is kind of create that custom PDF version where we're focusing on a certain part of campus based on what's happening. So if it's a new student orientation and we know that students are only going to certain buildings, then we highlight those and focus on that portion of it for a PDF map. And so that helps with the scale in some respect, but I don't think from our perspective, we're not moving away from it because there are still those groups that want to continue to use it, but we do try to push them towards the interactive map first.
Great, thank you.
Cool. And then I know that we answered this a little bit in the chat, but I want to go ahead and give Jill an opportunity to expand on it a little bit more. Jennifer asked a question about the AI model that we use for our features. within our products and stuff. And Jill, I wanted to, yeah, Jennifer, if you wanted to give more context to the question, and then we'll allow Jill to answer it.
Sure. Thank you so much. Are you guys hearing me okay? Awesome. So yeah, I mean, the question really isn't, she had said, you can turn it off if you don't want it, but I think um, based on the stuff that we saw today, that the functionality seems like it could be very useful for our client partners. But just in the interest of, data security, making sure we can answer questions as they come up and give them good advice, I think I'd be really interested to know, where, what's the scope of the data that's being shared with AI? I think you said that it's going to open AI for that, and that it's not being used for training, which answers a big question. But then also, is our data like is there a data strategy in place for maybe a data breach? Is the data merged with other stuff? So just kind of like what's the scope of that? And then, how is our data tracked that's being sent to OpenAI? And, again, it's for an events calendar, so obviously this isn't going to be the most critical data, but there are going to be cases where we might have an event that's private or somebody working in there that doesn't necessarily want their data to be shared in that way. So I think it just would be interesting to hear what the scope of that is. And, if we have it active for our installation, for example, is it by default kind of running in the background for everyone, or is it only called on when somebody puts information in there? Does that make sense that I'm asking what I'm asking?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, cool.
absolutely.
I'm going to
And I
stop
can
talking now and let you guys address that. Thank you so
no,
much.
it's a great question, Jen, and we should definitely follow up with you with even more details with people much smarter than myself. But what I can tell you is yes, we use OpenAI and we only share information when triggered or requested. There's nothing running in the background right now, nothing that that can lean in. That being said, I transparently, we're definitely looking into how we can surface AI to suggest recommendations and do different things. So there might be the potential for you to opt into those uh, type of features in the future, but that's the type of thing where you would solely opt in on. We'd be very transparent on what it means. But today on the events calendar, it's going to take into account like the place and the event, any event description that's already there if you want it to. And just some basic context there, and it's going to do a simple request over to OpenAI and give you back. There's no ongoing learning or education or storage of any way, shape, or form. I'd have to follow up on the analytics side of things. I don't know that answer on the events platform off the top of my head, but we're taking a very trying to be very transparent and very simple approach early on to just make sure that we're not sharing any information that's not desired and nothing is stored or sent over. That being said, I will certainly make sure we are working on some FAQs on our side right now to add to our help site, and we will make sure that those are shared with you after the fact. And these are great questions. So thanks for helping make sure that we're buttoned up in how we answer around these.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's AI is a big conversation. And AI and the right way to
Yes,
use it is a big conversation on our campus, and I'm sure it is on many other campuses as well. So I'm sure, these are questions that we want to have the answers to because we're going to get asked. Thanks a
absolutely. I
lot.
totally agree. Mhm.
Jennifer and others, we had a really great conversation yesterday about AI and using AI. So if you want to check out that recording, you might find some insight there. I know we have 2 minutes left. Was there any other questions, Mikey, from the chat or last minute? Does anybody want to drop anything last minute?
We have a question from Catherine about any more details about the localist updates this year. Maybe we should hand the mic over to Catherine and see if there's any specific questions about localist that she's wanting to know.
Sorry, there's a couple Catherines.
Oh,
Leslie.
Catherine Leslie.
Thanks.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Amazing. There we go. I was like, with the way this web thing was going, I was like, I don't see a way for me to talk, but it popped up. So wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, I was just wondering about just literally any more details about stuff that's coming up with Localist. I don't know if I'm like, I know that my people that I have been working with get really frustrated with me because I have submitted tons and tons of bugs, feature requests, things like that for Localist. So I'm like, what is upcoming? What is new? Are there going to be any additions to blended feeds? The ability to different ability to use channels, widgets, things like that. I had submitted stuff about having the things that you exclude. They always seem to override what you include, which makes it difficult to use blended feeds. We use 25 lives. We do a hosted CSV. There's always like some little kind of glitches and complications and a lot of stuff with that when you're using a bigger system like that and pulling everything in. So I just didn't know if there was kind of any more, like, which might seem minor details, but to me, I might be like, oh my gosh, that's going to completely change my life as it comes to managing this stuff every single day. Because currently I have to
absolutely.
do a lot of manual additions to make things work, and it would be so amazing for some of these small things to help streamline stuff.
Yeah, Catherine, I can take a look at some of the requests you've put in and see if we can follow up on anything directly. I can tell you, and we have 4 products, and in my experience in product, I've never seen a product get the amount of requests that Looklist does, which is amazing, but also really challenging as a product leader. So many people are using it in different ways and want specific things, and you have to really think about the product holistically. And what you mentioned sounds like things that a lot of our customers are doing and using. So I'll definitely work to get some updates on some of those specific requirements for you. I can tell you one thing I know that's come up a lot is people have wanted minor detail. People have wanted the ability to require alt text on the platform. So we're building in the ability to require that on a system toggle. So that should be coming down the road pretty soon. That being said, I do not know any more tiny specifics like that off the top of my head, but definitely we can follow up with some. I do know this quarter we're really focusing on some performance and stability improvements that for the platform to just really scale and work well before we get into our back to school season. But I do know there's some other smaller things moving through as well. So we can certainly follow up with you with some of that.
That'd be amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, as we wrap things up, just want to thank everyone again for joining us at this session, through our sessions throughout this week. It's been an incredible summit, and we just appreciate all of our partnerships that we have. Thea, special thanks to you. This was a wonderful, wonderful presentation. I really enjoyed getting to listen. Jill and Courtney, you all were incredible to enhance the conversation. I think this was a wonderful 3-way, and Mikey, thanks for helping as well for keeping the conversation going. So
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
see y'all next year.
Bye.